Hi students, parents, and guardians. The following is a tutorial video for narrative writing. Narratives typically have four sections. The first section is an orientation, which sets the scene for the reader and introduces the various characters. The next section is the complication or problem. Something positive or negative is introduced, and characters respond. Then comes a series of events that extends the narrative. And lastly, we round off our stories with a resolution or ending. We report on how the problem is solved. Occasionally, there is a cliffhanger ending or a dun 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 to be continued. Let's take a look at our graphic organizer. There's a page for every section, and atop each page is an area where students can use pictures and or words to plan their writing. Beneath this portion of the organizer are lines for them to write down their ideas. Students are reminded prior to writing to review the necessary success criteria. And upon completion, there's a column for them to reflect upon their writing. I suggest that they use 3 marks to reflect upon their writing. A check mark indicates that they've included that given success criteria. If they address that success criteria to some degree, they can use a tilde or squiggly. And if they've omitted that success criteria, they can record an X in the space provided. A strong story title is a provocative one that acts like bait on the end of a fishing line, allowing you to reel in a potential reader into your world. Consider the following story problem. What might be a strong title for this story? As is the case with any writing text form, students are reminded to apply 2 or 3 steps of our proofreading plan, or OPP, after every sentence they write. Most narratives are written in past tense. That is to say that the action in the story has already happened, but the narrator is reporting on what has happened. Beyond applying the 3 steps of our proofreading plan, or OPP, after every sentence, I suggest that students imagine the word yesterday appearing at the beginning of their sentences. By incorporating that imaginary word yesterday at the beginning of every sentence, they'll be able to conjugate their verbs in past tense. Let's take the following example. Yesterday, Johnny Fastball walks in the store. No, it doesn't quite sound right. Yesterday, Johnny Fastball walked, that infamous ED ending, to the store. Besides having an omniscient or all-knowing narrator directing the action in your story, students are reminded to include dialogue. As for the mechanics of dialogue, that can prove tricky for students. Students need to include quotation marks around the words that the character says out loud or is thinking internally. Think of quotation marks as a door. The opening quotation marks opens the dialogue and begins the spoken sentence. And the closing quotation mark closes the dialogue and belongs at the end of the spoken sentence. As for the dialogue tag, that states who is doing the talking or thinking and how it's being said. One can front load the dialogue tag. He replied, "What are you doing?" One can use a colon or a comma to introduce what's being said out loud. Or the dialogue tag can be backloaded. Oh, I'm so very sorry. I didn't see you there, the lady responded. Should what's being said out loud be a declarative sentence, one ending in a period, that period is to be changed to a comma. As for said synonyms, those are very valuable. After all, using too many he saids and she saids as dialogue tags can get boring and repetitive. Students can use their online tools or their toolkit binder found inside of their desk to assist with freshening up their dialogue tags. Too much narration can starve your audience of learning about each character's unique voice. Let's take a look at the following example. Ariel kept on shouting back and forth with Adam over whether his pitches were balls or strikes, versus the inclusion of dialogue. Ariel snapped and shouted, "That was definitely a strike." Adam replied, "Are you crazy? That was clearly a ball." Descriptive writing is really necessary to help the reader visualize the action amongst your four sections. Students ought to use their five senses and strike a balance between telling and showing by constantly telling the reader how a particular character is feeling can get repetitive. By showing it, it allows them to visualize how they're demonstrating that particular character trait. For example, instead of stating that Sally was nervous, we can state that Sally bit her nails furiously and shifted her weight back and forth across her chair, waiting for her turn. Metaphors, similes, and analogies certainly can be drawn upon to help your audience picture things with familiar comparisons. Similes use the word like or as to draw a comparison. For example, his shoes smell like garbage. A metaphor, meanwhile, creates a comparison without the use of the word like or as. His sister was the devil. Don't forget, our narrative website has a variety of tips and tools, including strong work samples, to assist with narrative writing.